Hi there, welcome to the Read Aloud. Today we will be reading a book called Great Kapok Tree. I am Miss Winakur and this is 21st Century in Pasco, Washington. So today we're going to be talking about what the author's message is. Why do you think the author wrote a story? What do you think the author is trying to tell you? As we're reading this story is pretty amazing. It's about the rainforest and all of the different animals and plants and fruits that live there. And it is about saving the rainforest. And what's really amazing is the author even writes a message, which a lot of authors don't do. The next thing we're going to review is an onomatopoeia. So I don't know if you've ever read a book and you hear words like boom, clap. Those are called sound words. And you're going to see some at the beginning of the book, and we will review it. But I also want you to be paying attention to when we're reading this book, you will hear a lot of different reasons why the rainforest is home to so many animals. And you will hear the animals trying to convince this man who fell asleep along a kapok tree why the tree should not be cut down. So let's get started. Before we get started, though, we're going to talk about what is a rainforest. So I want you to think about what a forest is. I want you to close your eyes and envision, what do you think the forest contains? What might you see in a forest? So if you are thinking about trees and plants and all kinds of different animals and flowers, well, you are correct. So what makes a rainforest is that it is hot. It has a hot and humid temperature. So humid means when you're outside and your body is just getting very, very sweaty, and when your clothes start sticking to you, that's what humidity is. So if you're in the rainforest, it's really hot and it's very humid. And it also receives lots of rain. That's why you see the word rain before rainforest. So rainforest can receive almost 160 actually, to 400 inches of rain. And when you look at pictures of the rainforest, especially in our book, you will see very tall trees. And the story will go into details about what kinds of trees are in a rainforest and what the top of the rainforest is called, the canopy, and what the bottom of the rainforest is called. So I want you to pay attention as we're reading the book. And I also want you to know that rainforest contains many types, like 3,000 types of fruits and plants that you might not see at the grocery store here in Pasco. But our next video, part of this video, will be my read aloud, and I hope you enjoy it. And remember, we're trying to figure out what the author's message is. What do you think the author is trying to tell you? So I want you to pause throughout the video and pay attention to, why is the author writing this video? Hi there, it's Miss Winakur again with another fantastic read aloud. I'm so excited to read you a new book. It is called The Great Kapok Tree, written by Lynne. So it's really interesting. This book is a tale of the Amazon rainforest. If you have not heard about the Amazon rainforest, I'm going to link an informational video in this down below in the link box so that you guys can learn a little bit more, because the Amazon rainforest is filled with beautiful creatures, amazing green trees, tall, and everybody should learn about the Amazon rainforest. So let's get started. The Great Kapok Tree. So if you notice, here's a map. So all of the green parts are actually where the rainforest is located. Specifically, the Amazon rainforest is located in South America. If you notice the darker green and the lighter green, The darker green is where we currently have rainforest. The lighter green is where there used to be rainforest. What's happening is a lot of people are cutting down trees and destroying the rainforest. And so we are trying to be spreading information so that we can save the rainforest. So there's a little note on here. I'm going to read it to you. It says, in the Amazon rainforest, it is always hot, and that everything in the heat grows, and grows. The tops of the trees in the rainforest are called the canopy. The canopy is a sunny place that touches the sky. The animals that live there like lots of light. Colorful parrots fly from tree to tree. Monkeys leap from branch to branch. The bottom of the rainforest is called the understory. The animals that live in the understory like darkness. Their silent snakes curl around hanging vines. Graceful jaguars wait and watch. And in this steamy environment, the great Kapok tree shoots up the rainforest and emerges above the canopy. This is the story of a community of animals that live in one such rainforest. Two men walked into the rainforest. Moments before, the forest had been alive with the sounds of squawking birds and howling monkeys. Now all was quiet as the creatures watched the two men and wondered why they had come. The larger man stopped and pointed to the great kapok tree, and then he left. So in this page, there's a word called squawking birds and howling monkeys. I want you to pause this video and I want you to say, what do you think squawking means? What does that sound like? When you step outside, do you hear birds chirping along? When you think of monkeys, how do you think they howl? I want you to go ahead and pause this video and turn and talk. What do you think those sound like? The smaller man took the axe he carried and struck the trunk of a tree. Whack, whack, whack. The sounds of the blows rang through the rainforest. The wood of the tree was very hard. Chomp, chomp, chomp. The man wiped off the sweat that ran down his face. Whack, chop, whack, chop. Soon the man grew tired. He sat down to the rainforest at the foot of the great kapok tree. Before he knew it, the heat and the hum of the rainforest had lulled him to sleep. So when you read words like chop, 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 whack, chop, what was that an example of? Go ahead and pause this video and tell yourself or say it out loud. That was an example of pause right here. Oh yeah, that was a great example of an onomatopoeia. Authors use that to create sound so that you can imagine. For example, in this page, the man is chopping at this tree. I want you to think, why do you think he's chopping at this tree? A boa constrictor. Do you guys see that boa constrictor? A boa constrictor lived in the kapok tree. He slithered down its trunk to where the man was sleeping. He looked at the gash the axe had made in the tree. Then the huge snake slid very close to the man and hissed in his ear. Senor, this tree is a tree of miracles. It is my home where generations of my ancestors lived. Do not chop it down. So, an example of when animals talk in stories is called a tall tale because there's a lesson to be learned. So we're going to learn about a lesson in this story. And as we read more, we'll get into what the lesson of the story is. So remember, when animals talk, that's an example of a tall tale. Because do boa constrictors really talk? No. But the author's trying to send you a message. So we're going to learn about what the message is and what lesson can be learned. Remember, this man, what is he trying to do? He's trying to chop down the tree. And so the snakes noticed. Do you guys notice I'm hoping this is an iguana and there's a lizard right there. And do you guys notice the other snake? I want you to look at this page even before we start reading. What do you think the butterflies are going to say to the man who fell asleep? Or look, there's a bee by his ear. Can you imagine? What would you say if you were a bumblebee to the man who's trying to chop down your tree? A bee buzzed in the sleeping man's ear. Senor, my hive is in the kapok tree, and I fly from the tree to tree and flower to flower, collecting pollen. In this way, I pollinate the trees and the flowers throughout the rainforest. You see, all the living things depend on one another. So here's another text evidence. We've talked about text evidence before. Things that the animals or characters say in a book to try to convince somebody something right now. So right now the bee is trying to convince the man not to chop down this kapok tree. Whoop, here's the monkeys. A troop of monkeys. So do you guys know what a troop is? A troop, if you look at the pictures, we can use context clues. What do you notice about those monkeys? I want you to think. What do you notice? There's quite a bit of them, isn't there? So to me, I'm going to use context clues, or picture clues. My picture is showing a lot of monkeys. So a troop of monkeys, that must mean a lot of monkeys. A troop of monkeys scampered down from the canopy of the kapok tree. They chattered to the sleeping man. Senor, we have seen the ways of men. You chop down one tree, then come back for another and another. The roots of these great trees will wither and die, and there will be nothing left to hold the earth together. When the heavy rains come, the soil will be washed away, and the forest will become a desert. There was a really important message in there. The monkey was talking about you chop down one tree and then come back for another and another. I want you to remember that line when we're talking about what is the author trying to tell us. A toucan, a macaw, and the cock of the rock flew down from the canopy. Senor, squawked the toucan, you must not cut down this tree. We have flown over the rainforest and see what happens once you begin to chop down the trees. Many people settle in the land. They set fires to clear the underbrush, and soon the forest disappears. Where once there was life and beauty, only black and smoldering ruins remain. Let's talk about that. Black and smoldering ruins remain. So they're talking about when the people come, they burn down the underbrush trying to clear the land so that people can build houses and structures and different things that they need to live. And that leaves these beautiful flowers and trees. When you burn something, what happens? They turn black, right? Smoldering. So I don't know if you guys have ever burned something, but usually there's like smoke that comes out or is happening to the ground as you're burning something. And so the birds are describing that when they do set these fires, that there's only black and smoldering ruins remain. And ruins mean when everything's disappeared, it's just black. And that's all you see. A bright and small tree frog. Do you guys see all the frogs? A bright and small tree frog crawled along the edge of a leaf. In a squeaky voice, he piped in the man's ear. Senor, a ruined rainforest means ruined lives. Many lives ruined. You will leave many of us homeless if you chop down this great kapok tree. All right, so imagine, how do you think the animals are feeling now that they just think he's going to chop down everything? A jaguar has been sleeping along a branch in the middle of the tree. Because his spotted coat blended into the dappled light and shadows of the understory, no one noticed it. Now he leaped down and padded silently over to the sleeping man. He growled in his ear. Senor, the kapok tree is home to many birds and animals. If you cut it down, where will I find my dinner? Four tree porcupines swung down from the branch to branch and whispered to the man, Senor, do you know what we animals and humans need in order to live? Oxygen. And Senor, do you know what trees produce? Oxygen. If you cut down the forest, you will destroy that which gives us all life. So they're trying to convince him not to cut down the trees. Several anteaters climbed down the kapok tree with their young clinging to their backs. The unstriped anteater said to the sleeping man, "Senor, you are chopping down the tree with no thought for the future. And surely you know what happens tomorrow depends on what you do today. The big man tells you to chop down a beautiful tree. He does not think of his own children who tomorrow must live in a world without trees." I hope as you're reading, you're imagining this beautiful lush means lots of beautiful green trees. And I only know this because the author illustrates what the rainforest looks like. These beautiful flowers and all these animals. And just imagine if all of that was just gone. A three-toed sloth had begun climbing down from the canopy when the men first appeared. Only now did she reach the ground. Paddling ever so slowly to the sleeping man, she spoke in her deep, lazy voice. "Senor, how much is beauty worth? Can you live without it? If you destroy the beauty of the rainforest, on what you feast your eyes?" What does that mean? So I'm going to read that sentence again, but not as a sloth. Can you live without it? If you destroy the beauty of the rainforest, on what would you feast your eyes? So it's talking about the sloth. Basically, what would you imagine if that wasn't there anymore? There would be no more beautiful orange flowers. No more sloths. And do you see the baby sloth? No more beautiful flowers over here, or plants over here, or tree branches there. It would all be what we talked about earlier, the smoldering, and black. Nothing, all burned. Oh, look. So did you know that children and tribes live in the Amazon rainforest? So I don't want you to think about Amazon like the place that you go buy stuff online. The Amazon rainforest, remember, we talked about it. It was located in South America. This area right here. So I want you to remember that there are people who live in the rainforest too. So not only would the animals be homeless or killed off because they don't have any place to live, but these people who live in the Amazon rainforest wouldn't have a home either. A child from the Yanomamo tribe who lived in the rainforest knelt over to the sleeping man. He murmured in his ear. I want you to think of the word murmured. Murmured means whispered. "Senor, when you are awake, please look upon us all with new eyes." So he's asking the man to wake up and not want to cut down these trees, and to wake up and want to save all of these animals and protect them. Oh, goodness. Imagine if you were sleeping. All of these animals came and talked to you and tried to convince you of things. And then you woke up to this. I want you to think about what and how would you feel if you were the man who had just woken up. Let's read. The man awoke with a start. Before him stood the rainforest child, and all him staring were the creatures who depended upon the great kapok tree. What wondrous and rare animals they were. So all of these animals use the kapok tree for, number 1, air. Number 2, shelter. All of these animals live within remember, these trees are very tall, up to the sky. They're not literally up to the sky, but they're just so tall that they reach almost as tall as a building would be. But all of these animals live on different parts and use a kapok tree to survive. The man looked about and saw the sun streaming through the canopy. Spots of bright light glowed like jewels amidst the dark green forest. Strange and beautiful plants seemed to dangle in the air, suspended from the great kapok tree. The man smelled the fragrant perfume of the flowers. He felt the steamy mist rising from the forest floor, but he heard no sound. The creatures were strangely silent. So I'm going to talk about some of the different details in this text. So when it talks about the sun streaming through the canopy, so I want you to think about, imagine all of this is the forest. Lots of trees and plants, and the trees are so tall that remember, it's light on the top and dark on the bottom because the trees are blocking the sun, but trees aren't perfect sunshades because there's leaves and branches, and so the sun is shining through or gleaming through. Gleaming is another word they could have used to describe the sunlight shining through the trees. And if you look in this picture, you can see some of those lights. And then strange and beautiful plants. There are plants that only grow in the Amazon. And so if people are cutting these down, what will happen to them? So the man stood and picked up his axe. I want you to think at this point, oh, is he going to cut down the tree? We'll find out. He swung back his arm as though to strike the tree. Uh-oh. What do you think? What do you think he's going to do? Pause the video. Think about it. Suddenly, he stopped. He turned and looked at the animals and the child. What do you think he's thinking? If you were to write something that he would say, if you want to go grab a piece of paper and pause this video, what do you think this man is saying? Or thinking? He hesitated, and then he dropped the axe and walked out of the rainforest. So there's a note from the author Lynne. I think it's really important to read it too, because this will tell us the lesson or the moral or what the author's message is trying to tell us by reading this book. It says, "Dear readers," and I'm going to tell you, not a lot of times authors actually write their message about why they wrote a book. "I wrote the great Kapok tree to let the world know what happens to the rainforest creatures and to the entire planet when rainforests are destroyed. I hope that after reading this book, you will help save the rainforest. The Great Kapok tree is about the Amazon rainforest, a tropical rainforest, but we have a temperate rainforest in the Pacific Northwest of the United States that we must protect too. Please care for Mother Earth. Together we can make a difference. Lynne Cherry." So how great is that? Her message was to save the rainforest. Spread the message. I want you to tell 5 people about how people are destroying the rainforest by cutting down the trees. But thank you so much for joining. And again, here's a map. And these are some of the animals that live in the rainforest. And these are some of the animals that were in this book as well. And remember, some of the animals live on top of the canopy, where the top of the rainforest is. And then some of them live down below in the darkness. But thank you so much for joining. And remember to make sure to spread the world's word to save the rainforests.